So the recording has started. And again, thank y'all for all coming to Coderact on this here September 2nd, 2020. I almost said 2019, 2020 at 6:31 p.m. Nia, do you want to start? It's me. I know that it's me, but I just wanted to offer it to you first because I just, I love to hear from you. And also we're starting on time. Praise be,
Yes. So I'll start to say that. Great job, Sierra. We're starting on time. So once again, this pattern continues of me being the only one that starts workshops late.
Uh, amazing. Hey, we all got to take a turn. Maybe as we learn from you, you'll learn from us. It's reciprocal, it's a feedback loop, it's an ecosystem. Let's just, again, my name is Sierra, she, her, hers. I am the communications director for the Boston Ujima project. And the first thing I want to orient y'all to is the Ujima Staff Wire. This is brand new. So we just started doing the Ujima Staff Wire last week. And the Staff Wire is just an extension of our monthly Coderact. And as you guys know, the Coderact happens every first Wednesday. But this will happen every last Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever, the email comes out. And it's essentially just, another, window of opportunity to orient y'all towards our activities and stuff led by staff in the Ujima ecosystem. It's a monthly thing. I just dropped it in the chat so you can read a little bit more. This staff wire was called #BlackRest because we are an all Black team. And we took time in August, as you know, from our last Coderact to slow down. I don't know if we necessarily rested, but we did slow down. And so, August is, it was Black August. So we just thought that it was like very, on point, very aligned to take time to rest, revise and reflect, to do more internal planning, to develop to develop new processes for our own staff operations. And so if you look through the email and look out for the email in the future, you'll see more on that. Thank you, Nia, for dropping in the agenda. And I'll just pause for any, questions or anything. Yes, and Nia is right. The third Wednesday of the month is the staff wire. Sorry about that. Okay. And so my second update is regarding our official notes template, which we have updated, with everything else, like everything else in Ujima. Our processes are iterative because they need to respond to what people need in the moment. And so we decided to update the official notes template. Oh no, what happened to this? Is this me?
What's happening? Yeah, I think that's you, Sierra.
No, I can't. The header.
Oh, you have to double click it. Go into it and double click it.
Okay.
That's not the header though, right?
No, I'm sorry. Let me just. All right, thank you. And so we've decided to add some key documents into the header that y'all would also, that member teams can also use in their headers, because, as new members, come in and have questions, it's really important that they have access to, the founding documents that we, the founding documents in order to orient themselves to like what Ujima is, what the member teams are, and like the history of the member teams. So, for arts and culture, that might be our incubator document, as well as, the member team directory, the 2-pager, the 1-pager, the good business standards, the feasibility studies that we've already done, community identified needs, and more. So anyone, again, that needs to can find this in the official note sheet that we've shared in the chat. Thank you, Nia, for supplying that. And I'll stop again, just, in case anybody has any questions. And the headers of the new team notes have also been updated. Okay, it looks like there are no questions, so I'm going to pass it off to James. And James, just as like a point of order, I'll take notes for you.
Cool. So first thing I want to mention, I know that we had mentioned a couple weeks back, maybe even over a month ago, about how we want to sort of designate different staff members to really have somewhat of a presence and provide some level of support to all the different member groups or member teams. And we've sort of thought to do that by establishing some sort of rotating practice. And so every 4 months, staff members are going to be shifting their sort of like position in the different groups. And, our intention is to both offer presence, but also not, right? Like we want to also really encourage our member groups to be self-sufficient and lead themselves. But I think our thought was to, by our presence being there, we can sort of help support, the retaining some of our like traditions, like for example, with the notes, we want to make sure that notes practices are happening, and to just be available if there's any like key sort of organizational things that are important. But generally want to just kind of be a fly on the wall in some of these spaces. And so just wanted to share that was sort of our expectation. And I think that in a way, that has been hard to do for some people, or hard to do because I think that there is, I don't know, a practice maybe of, or maybe some level of dependency on staff to like move a lot of things. And so our hope is to, again, really highlight or encourage member groups to really lead, and for us to just simply be a support if needed. And again, to just retain some of our operational practices around just notes being established, and to sort of pivot maybe in that is that we also want to, I just really want to encourage or reiterate how the notes is a critical part to that like communication between staff and member groups. And so as you guys know, within the notes document, we have a section, things for staff or notes to staff or questions for staff, I forget the name of it. And we just really want to encourage member groups to really use that. And we're integrating that practice into our staff meeting every week, where we're really looking at those notes and making sure that we're responding to them as immediate as possible. And so I guess my hope is for us to continue to retain some like communication, but that would require us to both, I don't know, honor these practices and test them out. And so just really wanted to just encourage folks about that, or reiterate that. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, can I just add one thing to that last piece really quickly, James, before we just kind of pause for comments and questions. So part of that, the last piece that James just talked about in terms of just kind of committing to that practice of using the notes as one of the ways we'll communicate directly with member teams, is if member teams have actually noted a question for us on the notes doc, and we have renamed it from notes for staff to questions for staff, then our commitment is to respond directly on that document within a week. And so we want to make sure you all know this, so that you know the following Wednesday after your team meeting, you should be able to go into that notes doc and you should be able to see a response from us if you've identified any questions for us that you'd like us to address. And then if you don't see a response from the team within a week, then you should ping us, and probably, what makes sense if you're trying to figure out, well, who do we ping? Probably, the staff member that's currently the two staff team members that are currently visiting with you would, I think, would make sense is ping to say, hey, just want to just tug your coat. We had a question for you in the notes doc. It's been a week and we don't see a response yet. And that response will be at the top of the document, just so that you don't have to kind of search through the notes to try to find it. So it should be easily accessible, and you should, again, see that within a week.
Yeah, and I want to add quickly is that, I think this is an iterative process, as Sierra mentioned, all of our processes tend to be. And so I personally won't sort of be angry if someone just emailed me, but we do want to, and I know not all of member groups are represented here today, but we do want to encourage you all to continue to encourage folks to adhere or start to adhere to this practice, versus sending emails that come out. And because I know certainly on the staff, Nia made it very clear last week that she really wants us to honor and practice this. And so really encourage you all to also start to integrate this into your practice too. And I will pass, who's next? I can't even see. Is it Jenny?
No, it's Nia.
Oh, Nia.
It's me, but you did have one more thing, James.
I did?
You did have...
Staff charter document.
This is how I put this right there to do it.
And do you want me to talk about that?
I don't remember. Can you just...
Okay, I'll talk about it. No worries.
I can jump in. I can jump in when I get it, but you.
Okay. All right, dope. And then I just want to point out in the chat that in terms of questions, Claudia asked, can we add a link in the emails to the docs? And I immediately said, yep. But now that I'm rereading this, I just want to make sure I am actually understanding your question, Claudia, because you said a link in the emails. What emails are you talking about?
In the weekly email, there could just be a section where there's a link that links out to the folder that all the docs are in or something, just as a reminder for people to check there to see if there's answers. You know what I mean? Just so it doesn't get, just so when people see an Ujima email come through, that way we'll be like, oh yeah, I need to check that thing, and it kind of removes the extra steps. So people, myself included, I would have the tendency to be like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to check that. I'll do that later, and then never do it. But if it's right in front of me, I'll do it. And maybe it's just a main link to, the folder, or a page that has links out to all the different docs or something.
Yeah, thank you for that note, Claudia. I think that in the header piece that we described earlier, that there can be a link to the folder there, to each member team's folder there.
Cool.
Yeah, and maybe I remember now, I think it might have been, we've had questions in the past with different member groups, or with new folks coming to different member groups and who are not clear on exactly what the member group is for and the goals of the member group and the history of the member group. Is this what I'm talking about, Nia? And so
you're pretty warm.
So we're hoping to establish documents that really clarify the history and the sort of intention and goals of each of these member groups, and so people can come into the space and have some clarity on that. So it isn't so unclear or ambiguous. Yeah. Was that it? And
so that's what it is, James. And then just to kind of basically lay it out in very concrete terms, what we just wanted to let you know is, so we're going to be drafting a document that states that, so that does assert our perspective, for example, not just with regards to the history of the member teams and purpose, et cetera, but also our perspective around self-organizing, cooperative work, et cetera, so that people are also entering with that frame. So we're letting you know that that's a document that we're starting to work on. And I can't remember what deadline we gave ourselves, but we see it taking shape over, I would say, between 2 to 4 months. But we just wanted to give you a preview of that.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And also, I think it's just about our values. We want everyone to know who we are and what we care about and how we love. And some people come into our space and are not sure about that or have assumptions of what that looks like. And so I think this is a way in which we're trying to make sure everyone's clear that we're here for freedom. We're here for love. So that's what it is.
Exactly.
That's it to you, Mia.
Cool. Thank you so much, James. And then I guess on that note, though, so you just got a little bit of information about something that we're gonna work to kind of I'm trying to find the right word, but I guess just kind of like formalize in terms of kind of putting it in writing. But just want to pause for any kind of questions or feedback on that piece really quickly before I move on. Okay, cool. And then just kind of, and actually this, I think this relates to the exchange that you and Tiara just had, Claudia. Just a quick reminder that we did create a member teams directory. And so in that directory is where we've provided the schedule for the member teams, as well as a description of each of the member teams, a link to the notes where we have them. And so I think right now about half of our teams have migrated to the new notes template. So it's definitely our hope that by the end of the month, all of the teams will have migrated to that new notes template. So you'll see that some of the notes are the new template, some are older. And then where there's a Google group, you'll see there's access to that, or listserv for the Arts and Culture Organizing Group. So then there's also a way to kind of communicate with those groups as well. If, for example, you're not already a part of them, and you're interested in learning more about them and checking them out, and you want to communicate with somebody from that group, there is that member teams directory. And then actually last meeting, I think it was last meeting, John, you asked an excellent question, which is this on our website? And at the time I'd said no, but I was actually incorrect about that. So just also wanted to provide a clarification that this directory is actually on our website. If you go to our participate page, and so what that means is you go to our website, you go to the header participate, and you actually click participate, because it drops down as well. But you actually click participate, and that shows you all the ways you can participate in Ujima. And then under plan, I think the first menu or the first kind of section, plan, it says join a member team. If you click on that, that'll take you to our member teams directory. So that is right now where it is online. If, for example, and I don't know if John, the thought was maybe kind of like get a link that's easy to send around, but that's where you can find that. So quick reminder about that directory, and it is online. Also, I think this also does kind of relate to the question you just asked, Claudia, too. One of the things that we've also talked about doing, and we wanted to wait for this first month to pass for people to get acculturated to the new notes, but in terms of still trying to figure out, okay, how do we notify the teams, let them know there's a response on the document, and to ping them to say we've responded to your question, etc. We had come up with a couple of solutions. So one was hopefully all of the teams are kind of choosing roles for the next meeting. If we're able to see on the document who's doing what in the next meeting, who's the facilitator or the coordinator for the next meeting, we said, well, it's probably a good idea just to tag that person, because we think that's probably the person who's setting up the agenda for the next meeting. And so then they will want this information in planning the agenda. So as an example, the UNESCO group had a few questions for us. We were able to see in the notes document that Kelsey is going to be the facilitator for the next meeting. And so I just tagged Kelsey after responding on the document to say, hey, there's a staff response to the UNESCO questions, and then take it from there. And as James said, and as Sierra said, iterative, we're still figuring this out. So yeah, this definitely does kind of tie to your question, Claudia. So just trying to figure out the least burdensome way to let each other know we're responding to questions or feedback or comments. The second thing we've thought about is creating an all member teams Google group. So, we're sending out the wires, and we sent out the staff wire that's letting people know about this. We know pretty reliably about 50% of our list opens our emails. We're betting that there are probably some people that we reach in the Google groups, just because it's a different type of communication than in our email. So hopefully that captures more people. So this week, we're going to be creating an all member teams Google group. So we're just going to be going and taking members, people who are part of the Google groups already, so as not to bug people. And so you will see an invitation in your inbox from that. And it'll be, you know, Boston Ujima Project or Ujima all member teams Google groups. And that will be another forum where we'll be providing these updates and providing the links and providing the documents. And so just wanted to hip you to that so that you don't ignore the invitation, or if you do, you know, it's because you just don't want to be part of the group. So I'll pause there, and I see that there's a question from Dawn in the chat which says, will there be guidance coming on what kinds of roles and expectations there are for involvement in member teams? Absolutely. And as I was saying this, Dawn, I was remembering this actually was something we wanted to talk to you about this co-direct, but I forgot. So we'll we'll just have to make a note to remember it for the next co-direct. But we definitely do have some thoughts about that. So I'll pause. Any thoughts on this all member teams Google groups? Any questions? And also any additional questions or thoughts on the member teams directory? Okay. All right, cool. So as I said, this week you'll be receiving invites. And again, it's another channel or mechanism that we'll use to provide these types of administrative updates, and you know, hopefully provide a place where you know, you can kind of find everything all at once. And then if I don't know if you've captured this already in the notes, James, but definitely let's note that next co-direct, we want to talk about roles for the member teams, or our sense of roles for the member teams. And so also, I should also say, we definitely don't want to kind of like overly determine things. And so that's what these co-directs are for, is to present what we're trying to figure out, and authentically open it up for feedback and for questions. So if there's something you're hearing that sounds like a terrible idea, we want to hear that as well. Okay, and then on that note, I will pass it to Jenny.
Hi everyone. So I'm gonna start off with something that I love to do, especially with business support team, which is collective win. And I do think that this is a member team, all member team collective win. And she's not expecting this. So I want to give a shout out to Luis and Angel, specifically from the investor outreach team, but Angel holds it down for multiple teams as well as Luis. So specifically, the shout out is because of InReach. So for the last investor outreach meeting, during that week, Angel and Luis, the two of them, made calls to a list of, I think, over 50 people to re-engage and connect during InReach within a week. And I was so like, kudos to you guys, because that is something that is really important to us as a staff, that we're making sure that we're doing a touch to the members that sign up on our team. So the fact that just Angel and Luis were able to knock out 50 plus individuals, I'm pretty sure the list was close to 70 individuals in a week, where they got a phone call, a message, they connected with a human person, was awesome. And from that, there was a member that showed up to the member team meeting last time, who wasn't as engaged for the past year. And he specifically shared that one of the main reasons why he was there for the meeting, and he remembered the meeting, was because he appreciated the fact that someone called. So this is a very I won't say shady, but I want to say it's a very supportive way of saying in reach. We want to make it a priority for all member team to do it, because we do believe that it works, especially if you find that the team that you're actively a part of is a little bit stagnant, or there's not as many new voices coming up to these meetings, because we recognize that in order for us to have the impact of working collectively to push back against systems, we want to make sure that voices, not just just a handful of voices, but multiple people are coming together from different perspectives, working together to push this work. And you can't say that you are all about activism and movement if you don't want to get on a phone call and reach people that's not in your circle. So we really want to motivate that, and also have a genuine conversation to see if there's any barriers that we as a staff can help navigate to make this process easier. So I'm gonna pause. Feel free to shout out Louise and say good job, Louise, because they did that. But I want to take a pause and check in to see, is there any yay, I couldn't see it. Any difficult teams find when it comes to inReach? And with that being said, as a staff, we are going to update the notes. As you guys can see, the notes is becoming very important in the work. So the notes header will be updated with the inReach, the most up-to-date inReach call sheet, so you guys can see the updates as it's happening and know who has been contacted and who hasn't. And I'll take a pause for response, feedback, thoughts. Louis says Angel did most of the calls. Yeah, Angel knocks out calls as if he's amazing, y'all. He's not here today, but yes.
I just want to say this is so amazing and really empowering, because I always, like, it's amazing to know that that's something that, like, we could be doing, you know what I mean? So I think it's an amazing example of just really bringing everyone together. And I think everything that we've heard so far has been on that note of, like, just that continual, like, deepening of community. And it's in my heart, and good work, everybody.
Thanks, Claudia, for that. I will say this and share this, and that this will be my last tidbit. This is from personal experience. So English is not my first language, it's my third. And growing up, I used to be teased a little bit because I had a heavy accent starting off, especially if I was flustered or upset, you could hear my accent come out. So one of the places that I did find that triggered a lot of, like, anxiety or flusteredness for me was on the phone. And I realized that some people have genuine phone phobias or reservations and all of that. So this is from someone who wrestled with that. I just wanted to acknowledge, feel free to communicate with us to let us know how we can best support. And I also want to offer a challenge for people. You can buddy up on the calls and never feel like you have to answer a question that isn't in an inauthentic way. It's okay to say, I don't know. We value that as a staff because if you don't know, you don't know. You don't have to fake the funk. We have your back in getting you the information. So honestly, be okay with saying, I don't know. I would love to get the answer for you. You're welcome to First Wednesdays for CoDirect. So that is my thought. You can also, we have emails on the InReach, so it's not just calls. If you are a great writer, feel free to shoot somebody an email one-on-one. I know I've done a lot of emails where I've reached out and say, hey, I haven't seen you, just checking in to make sure that you're all right. And you would be surprised how amazing it is to just receive an email from someone just checking in on how you're doing. So reach out. We want you to reach out, heal the world. Michael Jackson reference. Okay, I'm done. And pass it on to Johnny after a pause for any thoughts, feedback. Cool. Johnny, you have the floor.
West Coast, tell me when to go. Tell me when to go. Go, go, go. Not everybody gets that, but that's okay. So good evening. Hi, everyone. So I am going to help wrap it up. And I think in addition to a lot of the pieces that we've mentioned in terms of the new official notes, staff wire, member directory, contact within the official notes, all these tools, and this has been said already, but all these tools are really to kind of support us in doing what we've been doing from the very beginning, what the Ujima community has been doing from the very beginning, which is self-organizing, moving the work forward, and not having to wait on anyone or any system to help us do that. And so I think we've been thinking through about some of the conversations, at least within the member groups, about like, you know, needing some more support and some of those tools. And that's where all those things came from in response to that. In addition to that, we also want to start a conversation about what does it mean, well, it's more of a suggestion on our part, but what does it mean to actually have a charter for each member group? So a specific kind of mission that the group can create on their own for themselves about the work that they're looking to do. And so some of this has come up at some of the member team meetings that I've been a part of, and I'm thinking of one in particular, but it felt as though that, all right, the work has gotten here, and there's a lot of things that we can do, but where do we go from here? And so, you know, in order to connect that concept, it's, well, what if there is an overall underlining mission within that member group that allows us to continue doing the work and pushing it forward? And so we want to start that conversation and jumpstart it the next time we get together. But we just want to throw it out there for folks to really kind of think about a little bit and kind of bring back some thoughts. And obviously you'll have the space to kind of share some thoughts here. But we want to have this conversation in full and kind of detail and talk about, hey, what does it mean to do this? How do you all like this? Is it something that's welcome? Is it well received? And if so, let's move forward in creating that. And we feel as though that what that does is it kind of feels like this, you know, this ambiguous feeling of like, okay, we're doing amazing work, but we're getting here. So where does it continue and where do we go? And so then there's this sense of like, hey, staff, can you come help us? Can you come help us like elevate the work even further? And in actuality, yes, we can support and provide some answers and further context, but for the most part, majority of the work is done by you all, us. And so it's, you know, in fair respect to the work that we've been doing for years prior to me even learning about Ujima, it's all about self-reliance, self-resilience. And if we can do it here, imagine that, right? So if we can do it here within this cluster group and then serve as a role model as we continue building and gaining more members, and as other people hear about this model, it's something that they can do wherever they are. So we're also just leading the work and the movement and role modeling best behavior. So, and you know, we all believe that we can do it. So I'm going to pause because y'all know I can just keep going and going and going and going and going. So I'm going to pause and allow folks to ask some questions, clarify some things. And again, about the charter, we'll be clarifying a little bit more when we meet next time around. So if there are questions, it's more so thoughts about what that might look like in terms of conversation. So don't, you know, I wouldn't expect conclusive answers. If anything, we can support really thinking about it, but not necessarily conclusive answers. So I will pause. I just got really excited because it was my time to talk. So.
Thank you, Johnny. Okay, it looks like there are no questions. I'm gonna give y'all, John?
Well, I don't have a question as much as an appreciation. It's really helpful to me to hear this emphasis on self-organizing. As someone who's, been hearing that, sort of trying to live that way for only a few years, a small percentage of my life, most of it was learning about how to operate in highly structured systems. So that's helpful. I also want to appreciate the discussion of inReach. Um, these are really hard times. I don't know about the rest of you. Uh, my goodness, there's just got to go through all this stress with no hugs. God. Um, so inReach, I think, is really smart, really important. If I'm kind of over capacity in a lot of areas, but if somebody organizes inReach, I'll try and do my little part to be part of it, because I think everybody needs a touch, for sure. Oh, and I also like your concept of rotating staff, which also sort of, I think that's smart. I mean, I started to think about, I run this youth basketball program. I've been doing it. It's one of the best parts of my life for decades. And our model is to have kids play on different teams every year. So you start out, your 9-year-old you play with this group, your 10-year, and so on. And it's because we're all in this together. So, and team building is just the most wonderful thing ever anyway. So that's what we humans crave the most. I want to be part of a team. So I like that idea of, not getting rigid and having one staff person or whatever own, but it also sort of reinforces the self-organizing. So that's all I got.
Thank you, John.
I also have a
Oh,
comment on all that. First of all, second on the staff members joining small member teams. That's really cool. The other thing that I thought was a cool idea was the director. I know you and SEG, we had talked about it being a problem with like new community members or maybe just new to like the Wednesday meetings to see like or to shop for which member teams they want to be a part of, if at all. So maybe sending out the directory is something that could be more like immediate so that they know like just what's out there. Otherwise, maybe someone should be outreaching or in reaching to them when we notice new people on the chat and be like, oh, maybe you would like UNSCG because you enjoy studying. I don't know, but I know that member team that I'm a part of, we wanted to talk about like ways we wanted to invite people to our member team. So I don't have like the answers yet, but something along those lines. Yeah, BuzzFeed quiz.
Claudia, I think that is an amazing idea and we should discuss that more. Are there any more final comments, questions, concerns, feedback, love notes? Okay, I'm going to stop recording now. Thank y'all so much for joining us for Codirect.